And welcome into the Cris Collinsworth podcast starring Richard Sherman. We'll get to Richard in just a few minutes. George Chahrouri is going to be along in a bit as well as we break down some of the best bets of the week. I guess that's what you'd call them. How are we doing so far on those anyway? I don't remember a loss either. I can't remember one either. So we're about to have a conversation with Richard, who's fantastic. I mean, this guy's going to be a media superstar whenever he chooses to be. He is getting healthy. He's starting to get that calf healed up, beginning practice. Hopefully he'll be playing again pretty soon. But we had a wide-ranging conversation on a lot of things. We were talking about social media. Anybody who has to take pictures for people, sign autographs for people, do some of that, always has great stories. Always. There's always great stories of some of the unbelievable things that happened. And so we go through a few of those. That was fun. We got into the New York Jets and the fact that they were beating the Patriots and literally had Jets fans cheering against their favorite team, the Jets, because they don't want to screw up and miss out on Trevor Lawrence by winning a game. It's insane to do that. And then I started talking about the young quarterbacks. Of course, we had Tua and Tyler in a big shootout. It was so much fun. Josh Allen knocking off Seattle. They're up to 7-2, playing great. Joe Burrow has been unbelievable. Justin Herbert just keeps impressing out there. And out of all those young quarterbacks, I asked Richard, which one, you only get one, which one would you take? You only get one of these guys. And I think his answer is going to be a little stunning for most people. And then, of course, we've got our favorite master stories, right? Tiger's a defending champ, and Richard has good golf stories as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's all sponsored by DraftKings, our great friends. George is going to tell you all about all the different ways that you can enjoy their services, have a great time. We love having DraftKings on our side. So without further ado, here we go with Richard Sherman. All right, as always, looking forward to the conversation with Richard Sherman. This past week, even Andy Reid made reference to comments that you made on this podcast. I was like, hey.
What did he say? I didn't see that.
I just say, like Richard Sherman was saying about the way that Patrick Mahomes can pull the ball back and do, he didn't go into detail, but you could kind of tell that he's
been watching.
He saw the social media side of it. I'm going to guess. Somebody told him. I'm going to guess that's what happened. We have had some bizarre things happen in the National Football League already. I mean, this is just getting a little edgier. Now, football players are kind of used to an injury list, right? Guys not playing, you've been hurt, you got all the different, everybody has something. So every week, the idea that a quarterback's not playing or whatever. The COVID stuff has just added to the whole thing. And it just seems like now more and more it is a key player. Ben Roethlisberger's on the watch list. Matthew Stafford last week. They have 5 days. They have to find out. The Baltimore Ravens last week with Marlon Humphrey, their best defensive player, sitting there on the sideline, had to sit out, but he was in close contact with another 6 guys on that defense. So the very real possibility of essentially that defense being eliminated from the game against the Indianapolis Colts. How real is this getting, and is it upticking to the point where everybody now is kind of going, hey, even the league has passed something that said, hey, if we have to cancel significant games, we're going to go to a 16-team playoff system here, and everybody no buys and all that sort of stuff. Give me your overtake. Give me the inside view of how all this is going.
Well, first off, I don't think the league would ever consider a 16-team playoff because as predictable as this weekend was, it showed you can never predict football. Who would see a 3-5 Carolina Panthers team running the Kansas City Chiefs to the wire like they did, or the way the Jets just played. The Jets, gave them everything they could handle, and they weren't unable to pull it off, or what happened in Tampa Bay. with two very good teams going out there to play and kind of ended up being a blowout that I doubt anybody could suspect it. I think COVID's been real the whole time. COVID's been as real as anything. I think that people are just starting to see the league's sense of urgency with the way they're responding. You have to sit the players out. You have to have protocols. You have to have everything in place. And I think those protocols and the reactions are working perfectly. Everything that was put in place is working perfectly. It's just, it has a drastic effect on the game. Not having Ben Roethlisberger is going to have a drastic effect on the game. Pittsburgh may still win the game, but this weekend or this Thursday, we had Kendrick Bourne with a positive test, and then you lose your starting left tackle, you lose your starting receiver, you lose we lost our backup receiver, and none of those guys end up testing positive, but it had a drastic effect on the game. It had a huge effect on the outcome of the game. So, I mean, it's just part of what you got to live with in this climate.
It's so interesting, and you made the comment, and I think it's right. All these almost got beat games, right? I mean, there clearly were some games. Now, we did the Tampa Bay game, and they clearly got beat. There wasn't no almost to that. But there is a certain balance to this season. I mean, we are seeing teams that we just think the Super Bowl champs in Kansas City, the undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers. We saw Dallas the week before. I was telling some people, I go, this is going to be a walkover. Pittsburgh's going to go down. And that game goes right down to the wire. Is it no camp? Is it COVID? What is it about this year, in particular in the NFC? I mean, it just looks like we have no idea who's going to emerge from this mess of teams that are sort of sitting there with 2 or 3 or 4 losses on the season.
Well, I think it's just the league. I think despite what people may believe about the competitive balance of the National Football League, these are all National Football League players. So you go, for example, the Cincinnati Bengals, may not have the best record, but they have players that are very capable of going out there and beating any team. It may not always show that way, mistakes or, bad football or whatever the case may be. But if you get into a 16-team playoff and they only have to win one, you could get 2 quote unquote bad teams that go out there and put out the quote unquote best team in our football league, and it would go, send people into disarray, because it'd be confusing. It'd be like, oh my God, these teams weren't even supposed to be in the playoffs. How are they putting out the team that's supposed to win the Super Bowl? And I think that's why people love to watch the game. That's why people love to watch football, because of that. Because any given Sunday, anything can happen. It
happened to me in '82. Right, we were on strike twice, so sometimes I get '82 and '87 mixed up. But in '82, instead of 6 teams being in the playoffs, there were 8 teams. And we were the number 2 seed. We came off a Super Bowl trip in '81. We come back in '82, so we're 7-2 in this strike-shortened season. And the Jets are 4-5. It would have never even been in the playoffs. Freeman McNeil comes in, runs for 240 against us, and we're out the door. So, I mean, but was it any less exciting? Did anybody think any less of the Washington football team because they won the Super Bowl that year? Not really. I mean, I don't even think anybody would even remember that as an asterisk by this whole thing. So it's going to be, can we get this mess to the playoffs, and then let's go.
Right. And I think COVID's adding another layer of obviously the unpredictable nature of our game. Obviously it's injuries week in and week out. Football is a very, very demanding sport, but I think it's adding a layer of intrigue because like we always say, I mean, football is just the ultimate reality TV show, and this is just another layer on that reality TV show. Now you're losing quarterbacks to a virus. So it's not like you're losing quarterbacks to injury and you're like, man, that's sad, they're out for so long. It's more of a, oh my God, that's unfortunate. Hopefully, he's healthy enough to come back. But now can they survive with a backup quarterback? Now they lost their starting receiver. It just adds another layer to the drama that is the National Football League.
I like that. Reality TV, in many ways it is, because now with social media and everything else, we are deeper inside the lives of the athletes that we follow than in the history of sports. I cannot imagine being around during the cell phone era, trying to go out and have a good time and go party a little bit, and everybody is doing the same thing, holding up their phone and recording everything you're doing.
Right, and it's highly scrutinized. Like a guy can get scrutinized for going to dinner and not wanting to sign autographs or not wanting to take pictures. A guy can be scrutinized for going out and having a good time, going to a bar and having a few drinks when, living a normal life, that people, you're not in season, you're out of season, you go have a few drinks, you have a good time with your friends. To most people, that's like, cool, have a great night, get home and do it. But for an athlete or anybody, a person in the National Football League, if somebody spots him out, they're going to film the whole thing. So he could not be doing anything wrong with just drinking a beer. And they're like, look at Patrick Mahomes drinking a beer. Oh my God, look at him drinking a beer. And it's like, well, the guy's just having a beer. I mean, is that exciting? But for some people it is. So it's really, it's crazy times we're living in because you can ruin somebody's life or reputation with a camera.
So I'll give you the worst one I've had. I'm sitting there and the guy comes up, and it's typical. It happens to you all the time. And people want to take a picture, right? So they, hey, it used to be an autograph. Nobody wants an autograph anymore. Now they want a picture. Okay. A little tougher now in COVID. I'll stand, a few feet behind. They stand a few feet, whatever it is. And so I'm sitting there, and this guy turns to me, and I can't even remember which team it was. So I'm going to pick a neutral team. But basically turned to me while his buddy was taking the picture, and he said, he goes, hey, man, tell me honestly, why do you hate the Cowboys, or whatever team he said? Why do you hate the Cowboys? And I look over, and the little red light's on. This guy is videotaping this. He's trying to get me to say on camera, he doesn't want a picture of me any more than the man in the moon. He wants one of those gotchas. He wants a gotcha. And I was like, it's time for you to take your ass out of here. I see what you're doing. Right? And I was so mad. But it's like now, because there are people like that everywhere, you don't want to do anything for anybody because it's that gotcha culture that is trying to get all of us.
Oh, that's everybody wants to ruin your life. They want to ruin your reputation. Oh, I got him saying he doesn't like the Cowboys because of Jerry Jones is yada yada yada. And it's like none of that is true. But it's like now every interaction I go into, I have to be suspicious of. Now every interaction, every conversation, I have to say, what's the agenda? If I'm talking, there have been times where I got off the plane and it was a red-eye flight and it's 3:00 in the morning and I'm getting off a plane in Utah. And there were people waiting with kids in jerseys. And you know how terrible it feels to say, you as a parent set out here. First off, I don't know how you knew my flight, but you set out here with your child. They don't have a choice in the matter. So that's why I never, I take pictures with kids, I sign for kids, but the adults, I will not. Because the fact that you got this kid out here at 3:00, 4:00 in the morning, for me, I'm a human being. Like, I wouldn't do my kids like that. I feel bad for the kid. Not that, hey, man, you're inconveniencing me. I'll sign the pictures. I'll take pictures. I'll sign. But was it worth it? Like, is that what you want to do? This kid could have been, sleep or doing whatever. And the kids don't even know. Kid comes up to me and he's like, hey, Marshawn Lynch, can I get your autograph? And I'm like, I'm not Marshawn, but I'll sign it for you, but I just feel terrible because I'm like, how many times are you dragging this kid around to random places to do things like this? You know what I mean? That they don't want to come to.
How many times have you been somewhere where there's a group over there and they're waiting? And the same thing, they know when your airplane's coming in. They know the whole thing. And there's a group sitting over there, and so you sit there and you sign, something, or you take a picture, you do something. Usually it's a football or a helmet or something. And then every once in a while, you'll see that kid who brought you that thing circle back, drop it off with an adult. The adult gives him another one. He circles right back around to get a second one signed. I'm like, you ought to be ashamed of yourself, man. You really ought to be. I thought Troy Aikman one time was going to attack this one guy. I mean, it was like Troy and I were working together. I've never seen him so mad. He's like, how dare you abuse this kid and he probably gave the kid $20 and then he sold Troy's helmet for $500 or whatever on YouTube, or not YouTube, whatever else the thing is. But it's, if you want to know why athletes get frustrated and why they won't do things, you have to know the history of some of the things that have happened to them over time.
Oh man, Cris, they literally put my address on the front page of the newspaper of the Seattle Times.
No.
They 100% did.
How? Wait. For what?
For attention, for clicks, for like this was right after we won the Super Bowl. And I'm sitting here like, how is this legal? I bought my house. I didn't buy it in trust. I just bought it like you normally buy it. So it's technically public records, but it's not public records to the point where it's a headline, and they put my house on that. So now people, it was 500 to 1,000 people a day at points early on, just coming to my house. And thankfully I have a gate and, it's able to keep people off, and I live in a cul-de-sac, so it's a dead end. You have to turn around. You're not just going to accidentally drive by my street. But I had to have the police come and sit outside my gate and hire security and all the extras because now people know where you live, and I'm in season. When I'm home, know when I'm not home. But my family, and and now I don't sign at hotels. Like if there's people waiting outside the hotels that the teams are out, I won't sign. I won't speak because I'm uncomfortable with signing and encouraging people to come to the place I lay my head. Like I don't have a choice but to come here. Like I didn't pick to say, hey, I want to stay at this hotel. So now you're coming to a place I don't have a choice but to come to, and I don't respect that. I'm not.
It's wild. I mean, it really is wild. I'm actually glad to have this conversation because people get so mad, and by the time like you used to have to try and explain. Like people would come up and think, why do you hate the Seattle Seahawks? Why do you hate it didn't matter which city I was in. It was always the same question. Why do you hate? And I used to go into this long thing. I don't hate them. Listen, it's my job to critique their performance. And, I say a lot of really nice things. Occasionally I say something negative, and that's all anybody remembers. And I go through this whole thing. I finally gave up. I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. Hey, tell me why you hate the Cincinnati Bengals. You always are why do you hate the Bengals? Now I just go, I don't know. I just hate them. I don't know why. I just hate them. I can't explain it. That's it. And I just keep walking because it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't. Right. No explanation is ever going to be good enough, Oh,
you're never going to satisfy them. You're never, ever going to satisfy them.
It is insane. All right. What is a catch? We are back to that now, right? Marcus Peters comes up with a backpedaling interception. It was called incomplete on the field. For all the world, everybody who's watched football for any length of time, he caught it 1, 2, 3 steps. The receiver knocks it out of his hand and called incomplete. John Harbaugh challenges the play. And everybody goes, what? What is he challenging the play about here? And wins. Peters gets the interception, and it turned that game around. I mean, it legitimately turned that game around. And you say what?
Hey, I'm just happy to see a positive call for DB for a change. I mean, with this slow motion review age, it's everything. Oh, that's pass interference. Oh, that's slow motion. Did you see him tap his arm? Did you see him grab his jersey and let it go? Like that was pass interference. And finally, a slow motion replay helps a DB. Marcus, my heart goes out to you. You deserve it. And what are the odds that Dez Bryant is on the team of the player that gets that call? What are the odds that he's on the field that day?
Well, and how about Gene Steratore was working for CBS?
Oh my God.
And he was explaining, because he was the one that had to overturn the Dez Bryant call. So I'm like, this is like too much, man.
It's too much. It's too coincidental. But it's one of those things where it's almost like the slow motion. It makes sense. It's all good and gravy, but the legitimate call, the right call, was probably incomplete. But when you take it to slow motion and you break it down to the letter of the law, then it's an interception, it is what it is. No matter what we argue, no matter what the optics looks like, that's the right call.
I love it. The more controversy, the better. Let's just keep stirring the pot here. Politics are over for a little while now. Now we got to come back to what's a catch. So we're going full circle here. The New York Jets. I'm watching that game. So we're doing the Patriots game this week, and I'm watching the game, and everybody's thinking the exact same thing. The exact same thing, right? That Trevor Lawrence, the Jets haven't won a game yet. They're on the fast track to get Trevor Lawrence. This might be their next shot to get a Joe Namath. And here we go. And the Jets are winning. They're winning pretty comfortably, too. And I know for a fact that there are Jets fans out there at this point cheering against their favorite team. They are cheering against the Jets because now here's their opportunity to get maybe the best quarterback that's come along in a generation or 10 years or whatever, maybe not even the best this year. But that thought is going through their heads. And is that, it's crazy, first of all, but is there a flaw in the system? Other sports have, a lottery, you don't just automatically, because you have the worst record, get the first pick.
I mean, that's where you almost saw a live competition for Trevor Lawrence right there, right before your eyes. Because if they win that game and the Patriots lose that game, then the Patriots are a step closer to grabbing him. And and not that anybody would ever say that, nobody can ever say that out loud, but you got to see your team compete and your team put out a great performance and they lost the game. So it's almost a win-win for the Jets. You got to see talent. You got to see your playmakers. Perriman had a great game. Flacco played well. The offensive line blocked well. Your left tackle has been having a good season. You got to see some defensive playmakers make plays. But at the end of the day, this is a long play. And if you win that game and say you miss out on Trevor Lawrence and he goes to the Patriots because you beat the Patriots in a game that you shouldn't have, then that's not just meaningful for this year. That's not just meaningful. That's a division opponent. You just gave arguably the best player that they're saying in the last decade or so, the best prospect. So do you really want to give the best prospect in a decade to the Patriots? That's a question I think the Jets answered.
It was wild. Sports just keeps getting crazy. All right. All right. I've got one for you here. Kyler Murray and Tua went at it, right? We got a glimpse of the future of the National Football League. And it's exciting. You love when young quarterbacks come along and they're getting it going. And it's not just those two guys. Josh Allen was phenomenal, knocking off Seattle. He's been up and down. He's had greatness early in the year, had a little lull. Now he's come back with a great game. And I'm not going to say anything about your old team and their defense. But so we've got those two guys, Tua, Kyler, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, all these guys, all these young quarterbacks kind of making the league sit back and go, this is getting interesting here. If you could have one of those guys, who would you take? Who's the one? Who's the one? You get the draft between Josh Allen, Tua, Kyler, Joe Burrow, and Justin Herbert. Right now today, you're the New York Jets. You can pick any of them. Which one would you take?
I'm probably taking Herbert, honestly.
Really?
If I'm being totally honest. And for no disrespect of all the other guys, because they played phenomenal, made tremendous impact. I mean, Kyler's running for 100 a game, throwing for 200-300 a game. Tua's played very efficiently. Obviously Josh Allen played phenomenally. I think he had 4 touchdown passes and has thrown for 400 a few times this year. Really taking the next step in the tier of quarterback rankings. But I just honestly, the eye test, what Herbert has done, and they haven't won the games. They haven't won, but he's gone toe to toe with some really great quarterbacks and really answered the call, answered the bell in a way that I think people didn't think he would at this level. I think he's answering a lot of the huge question marks that they had for him coming out. did he love football, or does his decision making and his talent really translate to the next level? And he's making some huge big time throws and really elevating that offense. That was already a really good offense. You had Keenan Allen, you had Mike Williams, you got guys that could make plays, but some of the throws that he's making, under duress and under pressure, have been outstanding and phenomenal. So it's no slight to the other guys, but that's the one I personally would go with if I was, the GM.
Tiger Woods is defending Masters champion, and they're playing in the fall. I love your stories anyway. So I'll tell you one, you tell me one. Think about it, a golf story, a Tiger story, whatever you want to talk about. Tiger, by the way, in my opinion, is the greatest clutch athlete I've ever seen in my lifetime. Nobody can hold a lead in a game that's meant to choke like golf the way that guy did for a decade. I think he's the greatest clutch performer athlete I've ever seen. But I did get to play at Augusta, and I do hold a record at Augusta. I don't know if you know this or not. I think they're thinking about putting a plaque where this thing landed. I hit a tee shot on hole number 2. Have you ever played? You ever been there?
No.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I hit a tee shot. Al Michaels got me on. He's the greatest. I hit a tee shot on hole number 2, and I hit it in the woods on the left. I was like, oh, God, I'm already, I died trying to putt on the first hole, and now I'm hitting the woods on the next hole. But at Augusta, you can kind of find your ball. You can it's in the pine trees. You can kind of, so I said, let me see if I can find it. So I go back in the woods, and there's like an access road where all you can't see it, because that's where all the, the tractors and all the stuff go up and down. They got a little barn back in there. So I didn't know it was there. And so I'm looking around for about where my ball was. And I look about 200 yards down this road. And my caddy's down there, and he's waving me in like I'm a 747. He's like, come on, bring it down here. I go down, I'm telling you, my tee shot is about 475 yards from where I hit it. It hits this access road, and it bounces, rolls, and there's a little opening where the tractors can get out on the golf course, so there's a little cut in the thing. My ball rolls out through the cut, it's still in the trees, but a minimum of 450 yards from the tee. And I'm just saying, I think there should be a little plaque there.
Come on now. That takes talent.
How about that one? So give me a Tiger story. Give me a golf story.
I first off, I'm no Tiger Woods. I'm more of a Happy Gilmore type golfer. I have no talent on the golf course. I can hit the ball hard and it will go right really far somewhere.
Yep.
Always. No matter how I change my hands or adjust my swing it's just not for me until I did like a little hop and a jump into my swing, and then I hit it close to, I think it was like 380 yards or something like that. It was super far. But that was one of the only times I hit it straight. And I almost hit a hole in one on a par 3, but it bounced out, and I actually parred. That was probably the only one I actually parred, and my best golf shot ever. I'm terrible.
So you're not kidding. You actually hit a Happy Gilmore well.
Yes, I hit it really well. It almost to the point where I need to make that my golf swing. But, that's a story for a different day. Ask Cam Chancellor. Cam Chancellor will verify this information.
I love it. If I ever get a chance to take somebody to Augusta, I'm bringing you down there on the first tee, and we're doing the Happy Gilmore together. That would be very strong. Man, I appreciate you as always. Another great week. We know you're back practicing. How you feeling? How you doing? Are you have a chance?
Yeah, I got a chance, but football is one of those conditioned sports, and, in order to condition, you got to practice. So it may not be this week, it'd be a long shot for me to get back for the Saints, but we have a bye after, and I'll be able to get my conditioning. So at worst, I'll be back for the Rams game, fingers crossed, everything goes great.
It'll be great watching you play again. Good luck, and we'll see you next week.
I'll see you next week. Appreciate you.
All right, buddy. Great to be with Richard as always. Great to be with you, George Chahrouri, as we get started to a little preview of Week 10.
Mm-hmm.
Things are getting interesting in the old National Football League here. Getting very interesting. This is a big weekend.
Huge weekend.
Not just football related, but all. We have the Masters going to be on, right? You've got NFL football. You got a ton of college football. And if you want to be right in the middle of all the action, DraftKings, their top-rated sportsbook, right? With promo code PFF. What is that again? Promo code PFF. You'll be all set. Enjoy it all to the fullest. And I'm a little afraid to ask, but exactly how are you going to get any work done this weekend with the Masters on? I know you're a little sicko with the golf, and
it's going to be. I've never had this opportunity to have football and the Masters.
Opportunity. That's good. That's good.
I'll tell you this. Last year, it was the Tiger was winning, but it was also they've had to move the round up and play it early in the morning on Sunday, and then they rebroadcast it right after. And I will admit that I watched the rebroadcast right over again, and I was riveted. So I won't be doing that this time around. I will say that now with the NFL, you get all this opportunity to have NFL and potentially golf parlays together. So I would head over to the DraftKings Sportsbook app.
I didn't know. Is that right?
Think about that. How fun would that be?
So you could take Tiger and Tua.
There you go.
All right.
Exactly. So I will say this. I usually eat like 5,000 calories on Masters Sunday. I won't be doing that. Don't worry. I'll be good to go for Sunday night. But promo code PFF this Sunday, DraftKings is ensuring all new users are covered up to $100. So you basically get $100 risk-free to bet on Sunday. You could bet on Tiger. You can bet on Bryson DeChambeau, who's the favorite. You could bet on Phil Mickelson if you wanted to. Are you a Tiger or a Phil guy?
I'm kind of a Tiger guy. I'll be honest with you. Sometimes I try to not be a Tiger guy, but I'm a Tiger guy. I just think his streak of holding leads, it was unbelievable. I can't even. What's comparable in the world of sports that all these guys, all it takes is a couple of bad shots, but he never spit it out. He just never did. He handled the pressure unbelievably.
I've gotten goosebumps to that extent when Tiger has a lead and when Jordan is down by just a basket or two at the end of the game. Those are like the two greatest feelings that I've had watching sports.
Oh, it's so cool.
Brady's up there too, I think. But you get the opportunity to bet on that, and you get football as well. Plus, every single day of the Masters, they're going to have odds boost on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. So you go on there and you get odds that you can't get anywhere else. It's safe. It's reliable. I use it when I go to Indiana, of course. So download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use promo code PFF. Get a $100 risk-free bet this Sunday. That's right. It's $100 risk-free. You must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania. Risk-free coverage paid out in site credits. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. And with that, now we can talk about Week 10.
Here we go. All right, let's start with this is the Thursday night game, right? The Colts and Titans. And I just got finished watching the tape of the Colts. I was out there getting ready for our game. And it's hard to see if this is going to work out. I mean, because Baltimore had Marlon Humphreys wasn't playing, that Calais Campbell got hurt early, like the third play of the game, something like that. And they just weren't able to take advantage and put together any offense. I mean, it just was not good.
Yeah. I'm with you. I watched that game. I was interested. We liked the Ravens last week. And I never felt too worried about Phillip Rivers, despite how anemic the Ravens offense looked. And the data backs it up. So the Titans are a 2-point favorite on DraftKings Sportsbook. And that's interesting because the Titans offense ranks 4th in expected points added per play, which is efficiency basically on the offensive side of the ball. And the Colts are 23rd. Phillip Rivers, the 20th graded quarterback. Ryan Tannehill is the 9th. So there's a big gap there in terms of the offenses here.
And this is when Derrick Henry hits the switch, right? Right. Week 10, this is when he has dominated the last 2 years.
I mean, it's fact. I would say, interestingly, I think they need to throw the ball more on early downs. They're one of the 4 most run-heavy teams on early downs. And I get it. They love Derrick Henry. They love what he does. But that's also when Ryan Tannehill is the most efficient. And so I think they need to rebalance themselves a little bit. That being said, here's where I'm at with this. If I were taking the game against the spread, -2, I think I would roll with the Titans because 3 is such a key number. However, if it got out to 2.5, this would be one that I would like as a teaser. And I would tease the Colts out to +8.5. Because while I don't have faith in Phillip Rivers, I also think that the Titans suck on defense. And so this is going to be a close game. That's where I would be with this.
Interesting. I tell you who really impressed me in that game, Darius Leonard. Darius Leonard is chasing Lamar Jackson around the field and keeping up with him. He's a special athlete now. He's really good. I tell you who else is good, A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown can play. How in the world did they have him and DK Metcalf in the same school and not win everything?
I honestly don't know. People are going to study that like 20 years from now. They're going to do a 30 for 30.
Unbelievable. I probably would take the Titans there. Okay. So there you go. All right, Buccaneers.
I need your takes here. Tell me.
Buccaneers are playing the Panthers this week. Panthers put on a great show against Kansas City, came very close, take a shot at
won me some money.
Won you some money. Last shot at a long field goal, didn't make it. The Buccaneers didn't show up. I mean, Ali Marpet may be the most valuable player in the history of the guard position, but they didn't even try to run the ball. The Saints jumped out on them early. The Buccaneers were afraid, I think, to blitz against Drew Brees because they didn't. I mean, they rushed 5 some, but they could not. He was getting the ball out of his hand quickly. Michael Thomas was, back and a part of the whole thing. But defensively, the Saints team, they're good. I mean, they having Davenport back in that lineup has balanced out, the pass rush in a way that I think is really, this is a good looking team, and they have a soft schedule the rest of the way.
I am always going to look for an opportunity to fade an overreaction. The Buccaneers were on prime time with you and Al and looked as bad as anyone has ever looked this season, right? It was akin to Brady in Kansas City, right? When it was like, Brady's done, he's washed, he can't do it, right? And then he comes back and he figures it out. To me, there were some things structurally that the Buccaneers need to figure out, but they have the talent. They can figure that out. Antonio Brown looked awesome. I think they need to feed him the ball more. And I think their defense, they were scared. They weren't scared against Aaron Rodgers. They blitzed the crap out of him. And then somehow they just can't do it against Drew Brees. So I think they get back to themselves. The Panthers everyone loves because they kept it close with the Chiefs. So I'm going to fade that. This is 4.5. Panthers plus 4.5 on DraftKings Sportsbook. Total of 50.5. It was 6 earlier in the day. So it's moved. I'm going to take the Bucs here in a bounce back spot.
It was tough though when you watch the Panthers play. They were so good. That Joe Brady, I think, is a heck of a coach. I'm just thinking somebody better go grab him. He took the team in Carolina that everybody said had no chance. A new quarterback, a new offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator, a new head coach. No chance. They've been competitive all year, and they did it without their star running back. So, but I'm with you. I hate it. I hate it when. Like we saw it last week, the Dallas Cowboys even. Dallas Cowboys were humiliated in the game the week before. They were awful. Playing the Pittsburgh Steelers 8-0, and what happened? Cowboys played the game of their lives, right? Teams that get humiliated, be careful. And the Buccaneers got humiliated last week. So
yep.
We shall see. All right, here we go. The Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen, who just continues to light the world on fire. Now, we know that Seattle's defense is not very good. And even
understatement.
Even Pete Carroll's going, I don't even recognize this. You don't even know who those guys are out there playing in those uniforms. But we get 2 more of the young bucks going at it again. Last week it was Tua and Kyler. Now it's Josh Allen and Kyler. And I'll phrase it this way: you only get one of those 2 quarterbacks. Which one are you going to take? I mean, it's completely different guys.
I was going to ask you the exact same thing. Okay, I'll go first. I will take Kyler Murray. He's young. I think he's showing more at a earlier stage in his career. And the fact that I think he's just starting to realize. Last year, I don't think he realized how good of an athlete he was. I wasn't that impressed with him as a runner. This year, I think this offseason, someone showed him some tape and they're like, hey man, you're still a better athlete than everyone out here. Like go use it. He's not taking sacks anymore. He's humiliating people with his legs. And he's throwing the ball well downfield. I think he will figure things out a little bit more. We know that his accuracy's been there. I'll take Kyler. Who would you take?
I think I would take Josh Allen because I'm looking at longevity. Like, I do think Josh Allen, he had the one game where he didn't run at all, right? He ran once or twice or something like that and had a good day throwing. He has good receivers around him. But he has the body type that I think can survive long term. And I keep looking at Kyler and I go, man, if those legs go away, do I still want him or do I want one of those other, Joe Burrow kind of guys or Josh Allen kind of guys? I've just been impressed with him. He's a charismatic kid. I met him. We did one of their games last year. He did a slide into the door into our meeting room. I was like, all right, you're good by me. I think the Bills have got it going on right now. They can run it. They have two good backs. They have three good receivers. They're playing defense. They have a really strong secondary. A lot of the things that PFF likes as far as the problem is they're the Buffalo Bills, and I think people are going, it's Josh Allen. It's the Bills, right?
And I think this is very close. And people say, oh, PFF hates Josh Allen. No, not at all. He's our fifth highest graded quarterback. And I will say this. I never thought this statement would come out of my mouth. Josh Allen is throwing the ball far better than Kyler Murray is right now. That's a fact. And for this reason, so the Bills are a 2-point underdog in Arizona. If this gets out to now 2, you can tease as well. Getting to 8, crossing 3 and 7, those are huge numbers in terms of where games land. A lot of value there. This gets out to 2.5. I'm not sure it will, but I would definitely take the Bills there. I think I'm going to take the Bills against the spread anyways, especially because here's the X factor. Sean McDermott versus Cliff Kingsbury, it's not a contest. Sean McDermott knows what he's doing. I'm not sure Cliff Kingsbury does.
Here we go. It's a really interesting one for me. Because you're going to get a mad Cardinals team and a Bills team that everybody's telling them they're going to the Super Bowl.
That's
I'm going to
fair.
go Cardinals here. I don't even know why. I can't.
You're taking Josh Allen and the Cardinals.
Yes.
Okay.
In a what's that called? A parlay. That's what I'm going to do.
There you go.
The Chargers against the Dolphins, and we've got the Dolphins as a 2.5-point underdog here. And Tua looked great last week, right? But Justin Herbert, we just heard Richard Sherman say, out of all the young quarterbacks, if he only got one, he would take him.
What would you say to that?
I would say Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
I think Joe Burrow has done more with less than any of them.
I think there's a tier with Joe Burrow in it. And then the question is Tua versus Herbert. Which between those two would you take?
Boy, I have to see more on both. I'm a little bit nervous. I think they're both. I think Herbert is, he's a really bright guy, right? He was like a straight A student. He was all that kind of stuff. I always loved. I don't think Tua has the greatest arm in the world, but I always loved his feet. I thought that for a young player and playing in college, he had the ability to get his feet in the perfect position to make throws in a way that most young quarterbacks never get to. And if he were coming in like that. The only thing you didn't know with him was the hip, the injury, and it looks like he's fine. He was running around making plays.
Not just fine. I think he looks more athletic by far than he did at Alabama. And my thought is that actually having to rehab from the hip has forced him to become stronger and more agile, better core strength. And I think that could really help him because I saw him evade tacklers in that game against Arizona like I have not seen before. However, and I think Brian Flores should be probably right there with Mike Tomlin for Coach of the Year. I would take Tua over Herbert long term. At 2.5, though, what I would like in this game is to have the Chargers as a teaser because the Chargers don't win games, but they also always have a chance to win them.
I want the Chargers for 59.5 minutes.
Yes.
That was unbelievable. Did you see the end of that game? They show 4 straight replays. Every one of them, you go touchdown.
Finally,
touchdown.
the fifth one.
The fifth one, it's so clear that it was dropped. I mean, it was like a television show, like an unveiling kind of. It's like sometimes I think this stuff is scripted.
Can I ask you something? How mad would you be as Keenan Allen? So you're Keenan Allen. How mad would you be that on the most important play of the game, they threw a fade to a third string tight end?
Solid point.
Like, are you?
Solid point. All I know is it's so much fun because Al's like the rest of us. He cheers for geography. He wants LA teams to do well, so he doesn't have to get on an airplane and fly to go do the game, right? And every week it's the same thing. Every week it is, how are the Chargers going to lose this week? There's no way they can lose this one. Oh yeah, watch, you'll see it. They'll do it.
So who are you taking here? Dolphins -2.5.
I think that's a really hard. There's something about the Dolphins right now. They just feel like a team that might, that is this one of those teams. They knew something when they made that mid-season swap at quarterback. They were
watching him do the things
They were
that he
watching
did on
him play defense. They were watching Tua practice. They were like, let's play to win it all. If we can't make a late move, but if we give them at midseason, a half a season to play, and our defense keeps getting better and better, who knows?
I'm with you. I would take the Dolphins at 2.5 if I had to pick against the spread.
All right, one more. The Seahawks at the Rams. The Seahawks are going to have to find some defense at some point or another. It is mind-boggling for me to watch them. Poor Russell Wilson's out there every week playing catch-up and throwing bombs, and he's going to turn it over some. He probably won't get another MVP vote this year because, they're just having to – they got to score 40 points in order to win games anymore. What he's done this year, though, is remarkable. The 27 big-time throws, first in the league. Yes, he's got good receivers, but 14 completions on throws, 30 or more yards downfield. Justin Herbert is second with 9. That's how big the gap is, the big plays that Russell Wilson has created this year. DK Metcalf, we've talked a ton about. But, the Rams are at home, divisional game. This is always – it's going to be down to the wire. I mean, you can just bet on it, which is what we're talking about.
So it's it's a 2-point game. The Rams are favored. I am torn. I'm really torn here because I expect Russell Wilson to bounce back. I'm not as concerned about the Rams being a good defense as I am about the ability for McVay to torch the Seahawks defense by himself. Because I don't have faith in Goff, but I have faith in McVay, and that's what makes this tough for me. So the play I would make here, the total is 55. I will take 55.5. I will take the over. I'm going to bet on McVay and Russell Wilson. I'm really looking forward to DK Metcalf versus Jalen Ramsey. I think that's going to be awesome. DK has the most yards and most touchdowns for single coverage. We saw him kill Stephon Gilmore. So I'm excited for this one, and that's why I don't want to choose either side. I want to root for points.
There you go. The Rams defense. So the Seahawks offense is third in EPA per play. The Rams defense is first. And I think that may be a little bit of a surprise to some people. Explain EPA per play and why it's important.
Yeah, so it's expected points added per play. And it basically tells you on each play, on average, how much closer does the team get to scoring. And if you're a good offense, you get a lot closer on average to scoring, right? The Chiefs, for example, are always up there every single year because each play is on average very good. And on defense, that means you're limiting the other team to not getting that much closer to scoring. Here's what we know about it though. Offensive metrics are more consistent than defensive ones are. Defense is always a little bit about who you played, and offense is more about what you do as a team. So I'll say this, the Rams have our 5th easiest schedule. You can get all of these, the strength of schedule stuff on PFF.com with an elite subscription. And so I'm a little less, I'm not as worried about being the first ranked defense with the Rams. I think the Seahawks will put up points.
There you go. I'm going to take the home team again. I'm taking the Rams. I like it. I just can't. I have to see something better out of the Seahawks defense. It's not like they haven't been trying to fix it all year.
Pete Carroll's going to switch from being a defensive guru to an offensive guru. He's going to be like, actually, I'm now offensive minded.
I would too. I would take my shot with that whole thing. All right, big guy. Well, we will see you next week. Are you going to write down the picks, see how we did this week?
Yeah, all the winners.
All the winners. Okay, sounds good to me. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching the PFF YouTube channel. And if you want to subscribe, all you have to do is push the button. Don't forget everything you get. A little fantasy, push the button. A little green line for the gambling aspects of the game, push the button. College football, push the button. The YouTube channel from PFF.